Hi everyone, Emily here from Emily's Excellent Epics, and today I have for you my July wrap up. And I'm feeling very kind of sad because the end of July means the end of summer. Womp womp. Um, Now here's the thing. I love pumpkin spice lattes. I love all the pumpkin scented flavors. I feel like pumpkin uh, taste should last longer than it does. I mean, we have pumpkin pie still at Christmas time. Like pumpkin should last through winter. It's a winter flavor to me too. So I love the pumpkin scents. I love pumpkin spice lattes. I don't like everything pumpkin spice, but I do like me a pumpkin spice latte. I want the weather. I want to be able to drink apple cider. I want the weather. But I don't want to go back to school. I admit it. It's nice sitting at home and reading and going out and showering when I want and waking up when I want. But girls got to make a living. Um, and I really do want the weather. So we have been in a massive heat wave in central Illinois and experiencing corn sweat. So we've had heat indexes of like 110, 115 degrees for the last week or so. Fun times. And then we had some storms and it is cooler today. Like we're having like a high of 80, 83. It's to the point, oh, sorry, I need to blow my nose. I'm so sorry. Unedited, folks. It's to the point where it's cool enough that I feel like I could turn the air conditioning off. Unfortunately, I can't because our air quality is some of the worst in the world right now because of smoke from Canadian wildfires. And then we've had rain the last several days. Today we did not, so they mowed the lawn. So this asthmatic self and allergic to grass, trees, and pollen said, I can't do that. So I had to keep my windows shut and the air conditioning's still on. Ugh, sadness. But at any rate, let's get into the reading wrap up. So in July, I read 12 books. Some were hits, some were misses. I read 4,141 pages. As far as where my numbers are in stats. So at the beginning of the month, I started off with 740 books owned, like total. I now have 752. So I held 12 books. Um, at the end of June, 317 books that I owned, I had read. I now have read 326 read. At the end of June, 423 books were unread. Now I have 426 books unread. And then overall, my percentage from the amount of books that I owned that are unread, in June it was 57.16. In July, at the end of the month, it's now 56.65%. So it is going down. Even better, at the beginning of the year, if we go all the way back to January, if I can find it, the beginning of the year, I had 735 total owned books. 474 were unread. So 64.49% of my library was unread books. So I'm making good progress. Could I do better? Yeah, I mean, I could be ruthless and be like, am I really going to ever read this? And probably unhaul it. And that would help my percentages out. But I'm not at that point yet. I'm not, there are a few books that I'm like, let's be realistic. Do I think I'm going to read this? And probably not, but I'm not quite ready to part with them. So let's get started with what I've read. Hold on. Let me go back so I could remind myself of how, I need to get caught up in my reading planner because there are a couple of books in here that I have not rated. All right, so first up this month, I read The Love Haters by Catherine Center. And I gave it 3.5 stars. It might be more of a 3. So here's what I liked about it. Okay. There's one quote. It says, "Love is what happens while you're busy making other plans." No, that's not the definition of love. Because love, you have to work for that. Like, love is an action where you are working towards the better of the person. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is work. It's not accidental. All right. So in the Love Haters, we're following Katie Vaughn, who she is she's a filmmaker, and her supervisor says, "I want you to go make this film profiling my brother, who's a Coast Guard rescue swimmer in Key West." But she doesn't know how to swim. What I liked about this book, I liked the banter between Kate and Hutch, the man that she's profiling. I liked their relationship. I liked the fact that it dealt with body positivity, and her mother or stepmother would make comments to her when she was growing up about how she needed to lose weight, and she never felt confident in her body, and Hutch is very attracted to her. What I did not like, Hutch is described by others as very attractive, and yet he makes a comment about how he does not see himself as attractive, and that kind of irked me. Like, can we just rest in our main female characters' lack of body positivity and really explore that, versus, oh, I'm really hot, but I don't see myself as hot. Like, I don't like that. Like, let her rest in that. Let's explore that. Cole. Oh my gosh. Cole is such a man child. And what I just couldn't get past him and what he did and how he manipulated people, and how there was some resentment over something that happened between Cole and Hutch when they were children, and now they're adults, and you still are carrying that resentment and have never really talked about it, never really addressed it. Like, and it wasn't like little resentment. It really impacted them. And the third act breakup was just, and how and why it went down was just horrible. So this was a 3.5 star, maybe a 3 star. Will I be keeping this book? Nope, it's going to my Pango shop. So peace out. The next book I read was The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the 4th and final book in Mistborn Era 2, or as it's commonly known, the Wax and Wayne series. Because it's a 4th and final book, it's really kind of hard to talk about this. So here's what I will say about this. In this book, we've been following Wax and Wayne. Wax he used to work out in the roughs. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West. And he was a deputy law enforcer. And now he's moved to Elend, and in the city and he is part of like the nobility. And now he's the ruling class, and he's trying to balance being a nobility and also that lawmaker. And Wayne, I just love Wayne. I love Wayne and his humor. It just hits well for me. Just the quirkiness that he has and he brings. And we get more of his story and his backstory in this. And Wayne really comes to the forefront. And I just love that and love everything that Wayne did. Steris, I love her planning. And whereas and she always feels like, man, I've been made fun of for all my planning, and it seems like I'm so anxious, but this is just how I function, is I need to have these plans, because she struggles with interpersonal relationships. And I love how Wax views her planning and views it as something that's very positive and something that is beneficial for their relationship and for him. And how her all of her plans and contingency plans for any kind of emergency that could come to light was used so well in this book and was valued by people in this book. That's just why I love this book. There are a lot of Easter eggs to other Cosmere books. So we're now in the so when you first start reading Brandon Sanderson, reading order doesn't totally matter. I know Sanderson recommends, and I do recommend, start with Warbreaker or Mistborn Era 1 or Trust of the Emerald Sea. As he writes and as he carries through his publication career, publication order really does kind of matter. There was crossover and Easter eggs in Stormlight Archives and in Words of Radiance, Oathbringer. There are a whole ton of Cosmere Easter eggs in this. So, and I know that it's going to be more so too in Wind and Truth. So it was important to read this book before Wind and Truth. I'm so glad I did it. I really enjoyed this book. I feel like Mistborn Era 2 doesn't get a lot of love. It definitely is not as good as Mistborn Era 1, but it's still really enjoyable. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. That was me tossing it on the ground. Whoops. Okay, next up I read Wild Dark Shore. And holy cow, this was a 5-star read. It was totally unexpected that this would be a 5-star read. I don't even know how to describe this book. To say it's a thriller, I feel like does injustice. It's an eco family drama thriller. Maybe? Literary eco family drama thriller. So this is about Dominic Salt, and he is raising 3 children on this remote island very close to Antarctica. And one day this woman, Rowan, washes up on the shore. And why is she there? And Dominic and his family, they are in charge of like this seed vault. So like what if climate change overrules and like plants die off and we need to have backup seeds so that way we can restart our lives. So they're in charge of taking care of that. Well, because of climate change, the island is slowly eroding away and they need to pack up that island and leave. But there was a mystery that is involved with what happened on the island prior to that decision and why is Rowan there. There's mysteries involved. And I had all these different wild theories about who all of these people were, what really happened. And normally I can usually pick out twists in books. I wasn't seeing these twists. There was one moment where I did see, but I felt like it was paralleled between a previous incident for a character. And there was another twist and I was like, oh, this is what happened. Yikes. And so there were some things that I knew but like the big twists and big reveals I didn't catch. And I can't say what those things I figured out because big major spoilers. There are some triggers, so do check trigger warnings online if that's something that is important to you and that you need to know. But this was so fantastic. I do recommend picking this book up. All right, the next book I read was How Freaking Romantic by Emily Harding. And I've read Emily Harding before. I've read Emma on 83rd Street by her and another author. And I have another Emily Harding book later on this month that I read that I'll be talking about. This one, I gave 3 stars. So this one is about Beatrice Nilsson. And she is in law school, and she storms into the attorney Nathan Asher. And Nathan Asher is representing the husband of one of her friends. And actually, she's friends with the husband too. And her two friends are getting a divorce. And so she basically storms into this guy's office, tells him off. Well, then the professor that she's TAing for, he is sick and needs to have a surgery. And Nathan Asher takes his class over. And so now she's TAing for Nathan Asher. And of course, how freaking romantic. It's a romance novel. Shenanigans ensued. She is just there's just a lot of immaturity in her that I just could not get past. And it was just getting to be really annoying. One thing that I didn't like is when she first storms into his office, she calls him an a-hole. Fine. But that becomes a term of endearment. Like, and I know some people think like, oh, that might be cute, that might be funny. I did not. I felt like she held on to her anger just a little too much and too long towards him and other circumstances. And to me, swear words should never be used as terms of endearment, because there's a time when like you can say it sarcastically or in anger or like passive aggressively, where it's like, is it an endearment or are you really mad at me? And it can leave the recipient confused. And as someone who grew up in a household where verbal abuse happened and manipulation happened, words are powerful and you need to pick and choose your words very carefully, especially when you're angry. And so I struggle with swearing when I'm mad. I'm working on that. It's been a lifelong struggle. But don't use swear words as a term of endearment. It's weird to me. I don't get it. That book, How Freaking Romantic, that would be going to my Pango shop. Then I read Out on a Limb. And when I realized, I'm so sorry, I realized I have not been saying what I've been using these. So all of these books that I've read, I've used for Herked challenges. And I have not been saying what I've used them for. I'm so sorry. I will aim to do better next month. I did not come prepared. I've just been like, I need to get these books on the shelf, so I want to get this filmed. So this one I definitely used for disability rep. And I think I might have used it for page count. I don't remember. So this is Out on a Limb. Or no, I use this for Disability Pride, like the Heritage Month, and then also Disability Rep. So this is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I gave this 3.5 stars. So this book, we have Winifred or Win McNulty. She was born with her right hand. It was not fully formed. And she meets Beau at a Halloween party that her friends are holding. And they hook up and she becomes pregnant. No spoiler there, because this is on the back of the book. And so they have an accidental pregnancy, and you can see he has a prosthetic. He had bone cancer or leukemia. I can't remember if it was leukemia or bone cancer. At any rate, I enjoyed their relationship. I enjoyed how he cares for her and encourages her to go after her dreams and doesn't stifle her independence, and encourages her and was like, this isn't too wild. Let's do this. Like, and just supports her. And it's like, this is your dream that you have. Let's come up with a plan. Let's see this through. Let's make sure this happens. Like, I loved that about him. I felt like this book tried to do a little too much. So she had a previous relationship. The previous relationship was with a verbally abusive, manipulative man. She had a complicated mother relationship. There's she questions like, how am I going to take care of this baby when I have one hand, and like one fully formed hand, one not fully formed hand, and it's hard for me to do some things on my own sometimes. So how am I going to handle a baby? He has some complicated family stuff going on. Lots of spoilers there, so I'm not going to share. And then also, he's dealing with cancer recovery. So it just tried to do a lot, and it skimmed the surface of all those things. And what Abby Jimenez does so well, and yes, I'm comparing this to Abby Jimenez, is there's one thing and she really focuses on it, or maybe two things and really focuses on it. This had like 4 things that she could have deep dived into and chose not to. Like, I wanted to know more, like, because like, as I said, both of them had questions about like, how am I going to be a parent? Like, how am I going to give my child all that they need as a child and have these experiences with them when I have a disability? But we never fully dived into that, worked through that, discovered how did they handle that. And that's why I did not care for it as much as I would have liked to. I do still recommend it as for a book for that disability rep. The author also was born with a not fully formed hand. So now we have a 5-star read. Yay. Bluebird by Sharon Cameron. So this is a young adult book, and in it we follow 2 points of views at the start of the book. And we follow Ava, who is coming to America in 1946 from Germany following World War II. She's German. And we also follow, what's her name? Inge, who is the daughter of a doctor who worked at a concentration camp doing experiments. And Inge is not aware of what her father is doing. I mean, she's very indoctrinated in that thought. Like, they talk about, she's part of like a girls group, and they talk about like they need to marry an SS officer or marry someone and produce children. So she's very caught up in that. And so that was very jarring to read, of like, whoa, this is one of our POVs and we're getting into this mindset. We don't stay there. So that's good. So to watch that growth of a character, to understand like, whoa, what I was thinking was so wrong. And this is so wrong. Bluebird, our title itself, actually comes from a real U.S. program that I was not aware of after World War II. And I'm not going to go into what that program is, because I feel like it kind of spoils some things in the book. I was not aware, and it's really, really gross what the CIA did and was involved in. Sorry, had a moment there. Did I predict the twists of identities, of people, and where the story was going? Absolutely. Like, nothing was shocking to me. At first, I was like, maybe this, but then I was like, oh no, it's going to be this. And like all of the twists and reveals, I'm like, yep, got it, figured it out. But it didn't matter. I was so engrossed in the story and the tension and how is she going to get out of this mess that she is in? How is she going to come out of this not unscathed, because you're not going to be unscathed, but how is she going to come out of this and be in a positive position to move forward and to have a good future? Yeah, this was really good. I'm so excited. This was part of Krista's over at Books and Jams, her Patreon book club. I'm so excited to have our discussion on this. All right. Then we have another good read. I read Roots of Darkness, which is... Sorry, I'm trying to cover up the glare and stuff. I need some light. This is Roots of Darkness by Demi Winters. So this is a novella. This is book 2.5 in the Ashen series. Our first book was The Road of Bones. I love this series. I am so enjoying this series. So in this, we follow Hekla. Hekla is, or Helka. Hekla. Hekla, she is part of the band of mercenaries that Scylla seeks shelter with in book 1. And Hekla, not only is she a female warrior at this time, so she's battling that, but she also does not have her right arm. We learn her backstory, how that happened. And so this follows the events that take place in this book are like the last week or so towards the end of Kingdom of Claw. So it's kind of hard to talk about this book. Here's what I did not like about this book. There's a lot of back and forth with time jumps that kind of got annoying, and we finally settled into chronological order. That was good, finally. I really like we're expanding more into the world. What is going on with, there's this mist that shows up in Roots of Darkness, or Road of Bones. I'm talking about Roots of Darkness. There's a mist that shows up in Road of Bones. We get more of that in Roots of Darkness, where we learn and see what's really happening when this mist comes. We are left on a cliffhanger. I need more of Hekla. I need more of her story. I need more of implications of what's going to happen, some events that happen in this book. So I am looking forward to the next book, which is coming out in February of 2026. The next book was a reread for me, and that is My Oxford Year by Julia Whelan. So a few years ago, I listened to this book for a book club that I'm a part of. And then I just learned in July that I found this at a used bookstore, and I was like, or a book sale, and I was like, I need to get this. And then I learned this month that Netflix is doing a movie for this, and I was like, sold. I need to watch it. And it comes out tomorrow, and that's what I will be doing first thing in the morning, is watching this movie. Or maybe I'll watch it later. I don't know. We're going to make some kind of I don't know. I might get some special treats and... Ooh. Maybe I'll DoorDash. We have a really good breakfast place in town. So maybe I'll DoorDash from the breakfast place and eat my breakfast and watch My Oxford Year, because I cannot wait for this movie. At any rate, My Oxford Year follows Ella Duran. She's an American. She wins the Rhodes Scholar. She goes off to Oxford because she wants to study English literature from a very specific time period. And literally when her plane lands, she's waiting in line at customs. She gets a phone call saying that she got hired to be part of a political campaign for the candidate would be the first female American president. And she's like, well, I'm doing this. I'm in Oxford. I will work, I want this position though, so I will work remotely. Okay, cool. And she meets a man who teaches one of her classes and has a relationship with him. And things go from there. This book, so it's interesting that this is now made into a movie because it originally was started off as a screenplay. And then Julia Whelan wrote the book. So it originally was supposed to be the movie, and she wrote the book. And finally the movie's getting made. I love this book. It is so beautifully well written. The relationships, the themes, and then of course we throw in all these like literature references, which I just love, and Oxford, which I just love, and 5 stars. All right, then I read Curds of Prey by Karina Moss and got to be part of a discussion for this book over on Tiffany's channel over at the Beach Bum Bookworm. I give this 5 stars. We are in book 3, 4. Hold on. This is book 3 of the Cheese Shop Murder Mystery series. Sorry, I couldn't remember. So book 3. So we follow Willa, and she has a cheese shop in. Sorry, I'm trying to cover up that light there. She has a cheese shop in Yarrow Glen, which is a small town in Sonoma Valley. And our murder centers around an event that happens at a bridal shower, hence why we've got this wedding here. Roman, don't like him. He's a man-child. I need more Detective Heath. I've been told that I might get mad in the next book. So, if you want more further discussion, I thoroughly recommend going over to Tiffany's channel, Beach Bum Bookworm, and checking out our discussion with Karina Moss. It was so much fun. Ooh, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more books to go. All right, so the next up, Lady Susan by Jane Austen. I did not read the whole book. Lady Susan is just the first 100 pages. But I'm going to talk about Lady Susan. So Lady Susan is epistolary, so it's all in letters. And I struggled with this book because you really have to pay attention to who's writing to who to figure out what's going on. And then we have 2 Reginalds. So we have the father Reginald and we have the son Reginald. And then we have their first names and their last names being used. So you really have to sit and think through like who is writing to figure out what's going on. So that was kind of annoying. But it's a very fascinating character study. So Lady Susan is she's recently widowed. And she's just been going from home to home, visiting family and friends. And she's flirting with all the men. It doesn't matter if they're engaged to someone. It doesn't matter if they're married to someone. She's flirting with all the men. And the men, and this is a fascinating character study. Because the men, when they write letters, they just think Lady Susan is great. The women are like, she's flirting with all these men. It's not okay. And her poor daughter, we got to protect her daughter. Because Lady Susan wants to marry her daughter to this man that the daughter does not want to marry. And then you read Lady Susan's letters to her one friend, and she's way worse than anyone portrays her. It's like, oh my gosh. So in that sense, like it's a fascinating character study to see like how all these different people portray her. But I wouldn't want to be friends with her, and I would not want to be her daughter. All right. Then I read A Torch Against the Nice by Sabaa Tahir. So this is book 2 in the Ember and the Ashes series. So we follow Leia, who is a scholar class, so very high poverty class, and she agrees to become a slave to the Commandant in book 1, because she's going to spy on the rebels after her brother, or spy for the rebels after her brother is arrested by some masks. And these masks, they are part of the martial class, and they are graduates of a school called Blackcliff, and Elias is about to graduate from Blackcliff School, the start of Ember and the Ashes, and be a mask. And in this book, we also follow a third point of view, who is Helene, who is also a mask, who is a classmate of Elias's. And we follow them on their journeys. And this is actually probably like the third time that I've read this book. And 5 stars. I cry every time where I'm supposed to cry in this book. 5 stars. What's fascinating to me, when I first read this book, I didn't see some of the twists happening. Like, I was kind of like, a little uneasy about this, but I wasn't fully aware of what the twists are. Reading it now and knowing the end game, everything is already written out. Tahir has given us all of the clues, all of the hints. It's there. How did I not see some of these things happening? I don't know. But they're all there. So that's a good author. And I will say this. I was not a Helene fan in book 1. I love Helene's story arc. So I'm just going to say that and be done with my review, lest I become spoilery. 2 more books to go. Thanks for hanging in there. I read Elizabeth of East Hampton. This is by Audrey Bellezza and Emily Harding. Now you note that Emily Harding also wrote How Freaking Romantic. I liked this book better than How Freaking Romantic. This book I would give 4 stars. This is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice. So Lizzie, she works at her family's bakery. She has applied to Columbia University. She wants to be a foreign journalist. She applied to Columbia University. She got accepted, but she's deferring enrollment because her father had a stroke. And so she's helping out at the bakery. And Charlie, because of course we have Charlie from Pride and Prejudice. Charlie is the romantic interest for Jane. Charlie rents out a house in East Hampton for the summer, and Charlie and Will Darcy travel down each weekend, and they meet when Charlie and Will walk into her family bakery. So here's what I liked about this book. I feel like they did a nice job really taking this book and modernizing it. I liked all the little nods to Pride and Prejudice, of course. Now, I will say this. There's no Mr. Collins. So if you're looking for Mr. Collins, there is no Mr. Collins. Okay? What I also thought was interesting was the person who brings the scandal to the Bennet family is how that all plays out. Because if you're familiar with the story of Pride and Prejudice, there's a scandal. How that plays out is completely different in the book. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. On one hand, I don't like it, is that it changed the source material so dramatically. On the other hand, I appreciate it in that it made our female characters smarter than they are in the source material. So for that, I did appreciate it. And this book uh, Will Darcy has a lawyer. Well, he works at the law firm, and one of the lawyers is Brandon. So I'm assuming that we're going to eventually get a Sense and Sensibility. And one of their clients, Will Darcy's clients, is Frederick Wentworth, who is the love interest in Persuasion. So here's hoping. They did previously, their first book together is Emma of 83rd Street, which is a retelling of Emma by Jane Austen. And we do get Mr. Knightley and Emma in this book too. They make cameos. So I did enjoy this one. And finally, finally, I read The Song of the Lioness, which is book 3. Or I'm sorry, The Woman Who Rides Like a Man, which is book 3 in the series Song of the Lioness by Tamora Pierce. I love this series. I cannot tell you how many times I've read it. I read it like every other year, every 3 years, it seems, because it's just so good. This is the first time that I've actually annotated it. There's a whole bunch of red, and that's when a certain male character comes on scene. There's a whole lot of green and blue. And I can't tell you who the red is in reference to, because it's a whole lot of spoilery. But what I liked about this book is we really see Alana coming into her own. She was studying to be a knight. She's now a knight. She's on her first adventure. And it's funny because she's like, I just want adventure. And I've been stuck in this one place for a long time. It's like, yes, but you've had all these adventures and all these different things happening to you as you've been stuck in this one place. Like, are you not seeing that that is adventure? Yeah. The things that I want to say are really spoilery. But here is something. Here's something that I did like. So in book 1, she has to hide being a girl in order to train to be a knight. And she resents being a girl. She hates it. And in book 2, she's slowly beginning to accept it. And in book 3, it's like, she's really like, why can't I be a woman? And also be a warrior, be this, be that. Why can't I be all of these things? And it doesn't matter if I'm a woman or not. And beginning to embrace that. And it's also interesting to see how she relates to other women who might not have some of the same freedoms that she has. So, really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to book 4. Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not realize how long this would be. Thank you for hanging in there with me. And if you've made it all the way to the end, let me know your thoughts are. Are you participating in any of the read-alongs? Oh, I forgot to mention the Song of the Lioness. That's a read-along of the Song of the Lioness, The Immortals, which was the first book is Wild Magic, and then Protector of the Small, which the first book is Page, I believe. So that's a read-along that Christy from Dostoevsky in Space, Chrissy Lewis, Dostoevsky in Space, Dia over at Novel Idea, and Victoria over at the Music Bookworm, they're doing. Ember the Ashes is a read-along that Krista over at Books and Jams and Sarah over at Sarah Nightstands are doing. So, are you participating in any read-alongs? Are you doing any reading challenges? Have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts? What was your favorite book that you read in July? I think mine rereads, of course, are going to be A Torch in that, a Torch Against the Night. Although there is a special place in my heart for Tamora Pierce. But But for new reads, it would be Bluebird by Sharon Cameron. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not sure what to comment down below, leave a fire symbol, because it's been so hot. It's been like the world is on fire. And then we have smoke from Canadian wildfires here in Central Illinois. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Bye.